Good morning. Welcome to the Old Stuff Show. Today it's a beautiful day out there. The sun is shining and it's one of the first warm days of the year. So I'm excited to put this together for you today. We're going to do part 2 of the Ephemera Collectibles. As you remember, I did part 1 and there's so many collectibles that can be applied to the category of ephemera. The word ephemera comes from the Greek word actually ephemeros, which means lasting only a day. And so I guess the intent of most of this was that it wasn't going to last forever. But the serious collectors out there are looking to uncover the remnants of the things that are left over. And a lot of these were mass produced, so most of them were thrown out. But today they certainly are collectible, and there's such a variety, as I mentioned. I likely will do another show in the future on ephemera as well. So I'm going to try and categorize some of this today. I'm really very interested in politics, and one of the things that politicians do well is they put out their own propaganda pieces for during election campaigns. One of them, a number of years ago in Canada, Pierre Trudeau, when he was Prime Minister, and during one of his campaigns, people attacked him, and he had mentioned something in Parliament, and it commented with the phrase "fuddle-duddle." Became kind of a popular thing in the days. So the opposition parties picked up on that, and they put together the fuddle-duddle $1, and the claim that your dollar's lost 39 cents of its purchasing power since Trudeau was first elected in 1968. So Progressive Conservative Party used that as a propaganda piece to get support. One that I've just sold on eBay is very collectible, and it goes way back to the 50s. This is called the Diefenbach, when John Diefenbaker was a Prime Minister. And on the back, this says Canada 92.5-cent dollar under Diefenbaker. So this is the Liberal attack on the Conservatives. And so political ephemera is very popular. Any campaign literature, if you go way back, that's something that's posters, signs, brochures, buttons, pins. These are things that people are looking for to see the evolution of politics in this country, in Canada. That's a really great category to look at. Another thing which is more in the category of stamps, it's stamp covers. There's first day covers. I don't have a sample of that here today, but there's covers that have a couple of interesting features. They have the logo of the company on the top left. They have the stamps, or often metered stamps. And I have one gentleman I know that collects metered stamps on envelopes and any advertising that was sent out by metered postage. And they were used sometimes for making a statement as well. Here's one from 1943, so during the Second War, and it was a company that isn't really clear here what the company is, but sent from New York, and the propaganda statement there: "When must Germany yield?" That's a one of a kind, really a neat piece. The stamp on the back and the stamp on the front for the stamp collectors makes a big statement. A lot of these cover envelopes tell a story. So if you go to the early days of radio, Marconi is the person that is often associated with that. So we have in Canada here, we have the Canadian Marconi Company envelope. This is 1933. On the front is via Marconi, and worldwide wireless from Montreal with a metered postage stamp on there as well. So people that are radio collectors like to add materials to supplement their radio collection like that. Then there's companies that still exist or have disappeared, but we're all familiar, and I mentioned I like ice cream, so I'm familiar with the ice cream cone factory, Robinson, who produced the cones, and this is a stamp cover from 1944 with their logo and their advertising. In Toronto, Royal York Hotel, many people have stayed in the Royal York Hotel, but on the back it says York Trading Company Limited, so you get to know a little bit about the history, or you can research some of the history of the company, and this is dated 1934. Radio was a big thing, and RCA was a big company at that time, so this one is 1933 RCA Radiotron Company, Harrison, New Jersey. Jubilees are and occasions are often highlighted on many of these stamp cover envelopes. Here's one from 1877 to 1937, Diamond Jubilee sent in 1937. This one is on eBay right now, and it's getting a lot of attention, and possibly by the time I upload this it will have been sold. But it's La Presse, the big newspaper in Montreal, and it's dated 1933 as well. Again, the RCA Radiotron Company, this was dated 1933. 3 metered stamps on here on the front, and on the back a nice strip of advertising that people would find interesting for their collection. The railway people, they like to find advertising that relates to their railways, their favorite railways. 1933 Canadian Pacific and 1933 New York Central Railway. So you can see that the common envelope that normally would be thrown away, people find it today collectible because of the logos, the stamps, and the dates when they were sent. The oil and gas people, I say people because there's a lot of people who collect oil memorabilia, and BA was one of the companies. The BA, British American company, this is 1933, metered stamp there as well. But in the old days, the gas stations, like BA that you just saw, they gave away the road maps free. When you were at the gas station, you filled up with gas, and you could take a map with you. And of course, that was how people got around in those days. So these are very collectible. So as far as prices, just to give you an idea of so far what we've looked at here, the gas station map, for example, this would be around $10. Any of those envelopes would run from between $2 and $5. The German one, though, that's a $10 one, and the Radiotron larger one is a $10 one also. So it's in that range, generally speaking. The Fuddle Duddle, Diefenbaker, they're around the $8 to $10 range as well. So it gives you a bit of an idea of where we're coming from on that area. There's also companies that are connected with different things that maybe you've never heard about. For example, the Gutta Percha Rubber Company. This was a company that actually had a connection with making golf balls, and so Gutta Percha golf balls today would be very very sought after by the golf people who are collecting. This is 1933 as well, and Golden Jubilee 1883, 1933, with a metered stamp on it as well. Just switching over to another type of memorabilia. At one point I met a person who was telling me about her father living during the Depression, and how in those days, of course, money was tight, and they had to keep a good record of every little thing that they spent. And she said that she had in her possession a ledger that her father had filled out, which recorded all of the items purchased and the cost. And it was quite fascinating. So she let me photocopy this. So this is just a photocopy of about 3 or 4 pages, but it's fascinating. You know, it's there's about 7 or 8 pages, and you can see how people were budgeting and so on. But the interesting thing about this, certainly prices, like hamburger somebody bought here for 20 cents and potatoes for 30 cents in 1936. You also see how things like cigars and cigarettes were important, and they show up on the list. But just everyday items that some we still use and some we don't. Now this, I don't have the original, but if any of you were interested in it, I certainly could photocopy this and put it on eBay. You can let me know if you think it's of any value to you. Sometimes teachers find that very interesting when they're teaching the Depression, and they need to have some resource material to back up what they're talking about. During the war, another category which I'm going to probably do a show on would be old magazines, and many of the newspapers on the weekend would have a special supplement. In Toronto, the Toronto Star, which was distributed throughout Canada, had a supplement called the Star Weekly. But the thing about the Star Weekly was that it's well known for its covers. And during the war, a lot of really neat war-related covers that were humorous, and some of the artists were well-known artists at the time. That's collectible. They run around $8 each, plus shipping. And eBay, you should know that shipping is always an extra charge. But it was often pulled at the heartstrings of people with kids involved in the covers. Also, in a magazine supplement like this, you find lots of ads. This is Goodyear, war-related. There are dealers today who will take these apart and package the individual ads and sell them separately, so they become quite interesting. Inside, of course, the history of the war is very very good. Have an idea what was going on then. Also, Canadian magazine, I don't have a copy of that, but there was often either a hockey player or a football player featured, page long, and people look just for those particular magazines today to get a collection of those players. The radio stations in the 70s and 80s and earlier would put out a top 10 list, best music of the week, and they would do that weekly, rate them number 1 down through 10 or more. This one is dated August 6, 1976. It has Paul McCartney on the cover, and inside is the list of songs. And so number 1 was Kiss and Say Goodbye by the Manhattans. There you go. Another copy here, here's Bruce Springsteen. This one is dated November 20th, 1980. Number 1 song that week was Jessie by Carly Simon. They're all listed in there. So this type of music memorabilia is very collectible, and people of the Chum radio charts from Toronto have been very, very collectible in recent times. Something that was put out way back in the early part of the 20th century was called Victorian trade cards. And Victorian trade cards were just forms of advertising with interesting pictures on the front, and then the company or the store that was doing the advertising. And this one was Fairies, Albany Shoes, Ogdensburg, New York. These are very collectible, and they run anywhere from $5 and up, and there's some that are quite a bit larger and quite a bit more expensive. Oddball things like, for example, this is a Paris Presbyterian church from the 1920s, and it's a postcard, and the postcard is an information postcard. In this case, it's a meeting of the board that's going to be called, and they would fill in the date, and it informs you of when you should attend. So the postcard, I've mentioned the postcard before, was a very important vehicle of communication. A couple more postcards. I've mentioned I did a program on postcards, but I know another gentleman that he just collects motel and hotel postcards. Don't ask me why, but I don't know why a lot of people collect what they do, but they do, and it's quite fascinating. So this one is a Lewis Motor Court in Tennessee, Chattanooga, Tennessee. There's no date on the back, but certainly interesting to see how vacations were arranged, and the kind of accommodation that people used in those days. And so I said there's people that collect everything. Matchbook covers, for example. This is one here of a hotel that is no longer, was torn down and is a high-rise office building. But this type of thing, of course, is more valuable in the community in which you live, and they are often in a variety of different categories. So I went to a show one time that was just a match cover show, and vendors had these displayed in a variety of different kinds of topics. So there's everything from gas station memorabilia, match covers, to hotels, motels. Also, the girly ones are quite collectible. So it's a pretty big collectible. There's lots of people out there that do it, and they're out there for people to find. In the old days, of course, cigarettes were very popular, and it wasn't until when I looked at one of the magazines in the early 1970s that the Surgeon General warning came on. But rolling your own cigarettes, there's rolling your own today in a different way, but rolling your own cigarettes, the paper that they used was the most popular was the Vogue. And this one I have a complete pack of unused rolling papers, and this is on eBay right now. A lot of this material, most of this material actually is on eBay, and I'll give you that information a little later. Sports collectibles, that's another show that I will get into in the future, but a lot of people collect this stuff, but when it was made, it was not intended to be collected as much, perhaps, or most people, let's put it this way, didn't tend to keep it. They looked at it for a while and then they got rid of it. But various companies like O-Pee-Chee is one of the more well-known ones that made cards. Hockey, baseball, football, boxing, you name it. These two that I happen to find are the Toronto Blue Jays card number 17 of a set of 24, 1981. Nothing on the back, not in the best condition, but still, it's part of the set of 24. This one is number 20, Ernie Witt, who's certainly a well-known, popular Blue Jay. And so the intent of these for people today is to get the whole set and to get them in a real good condition. I think a lot of people would buy things like that in that condition until they get a better one, and they've got one that fills out their collection a little bit. Also, I've stamps. I don't plan to get into the stamps in any great detail other than incidentally like I did with the envelopes here, but there's some pretty interesting things that have come out. Now this is a pictorial postage from a pictorial postage set in 1970s, and on the front are aircraft, and on the back it's explained what they are. This one here is the Argus Subhunter, and this one is the Burgess Dunn, and it was used in World War I. And inside is the unused mint set of stamps. So there were numerous packages, some 20-some packages, sets of these rather, and different aircraft on each. So the stamps are mint. The information is interesting, and so these are also on eBay at the moment. Also mentioned people who are really interested in ocean liner memorabilia, boats and ships, Great Lakes and what have you. I showed you a Great Lakes freighter postcard recently. This is the Carsonia, the ocean liner Carsonia, which is the Canard liner. So there's a lot of people who look for postcards with more so what's on the front. The stamps were common, and so they're not the focus of the collectible. Just things that people, why you would keep this, somebody would throw it in a drawer. This is the March of Dimes, 1959. All it was put out as an advertisement for that charity and to give, but it was a calendar, so you'd carry that around in your pocket, and you'd remember to perhaps be generous and give to the March of Dimes, which was polio related at that time. Everyday kinds of treats that young kids bought. You could send away in some cases for popsicle little gifts. There was a Cracker Jack box, which was kind of popcorn that little kids would get in the old days. But there are some people just collect Cracker Jack material. So this is just a paper wrapping from a Cracker Jack promo, and the Cracker Jack person would be interested in that sort of thing. So price on something like that, it's a little more expensive. It's around $20 because it's in demand, and it's also very, very scarce. And just going back on some of the other things just a minute ago, the Victorian trade cards around $7, the Vogue cigarette package around $20. So March of Dimes, $5. Those are the general price ranges. One thing that a lot of people remember using would be the grocery gift stamps or food stamps. Gift stamps, this is a Superior Grocery gift stamp. It's a $25 sheet of 9. It is very collectible, and hard to find, because these are the kinds of things that were thrown out. People didn't tend to keep them. They'd use them at a store, and get some things free back. In the old days, radio programs and books were put out. It's interesting, Buck Rogers, who was promoted in the old days, the 50s and earlier, as a space traveler, before space ever really got serious, and before man landed on the moon in the 60s and what have you. But this is a little brochure book showing a map of the solar system, and it's just promoting Buck Rogers and his space adventures. So Buck Rogers collectibles in all formats are very sought after today. That would run around $5. Going back to sports, cards, like Christmas cards, any kind of card. This is a Christmas card, which is kind of interesting because it's sports related. It's the Toronto Blue Jays, who had won 2 previous World Series, 92, 93, and so now the card is promoting a three-peat, and it actually has some signatures on it, and I'm not sure who those people are, and the Skydome logo, which is now the Rogers Center. So that type of thing has value for the sports collector, and it's kind of interesting to look at the history of a team that way. These items are just, again, a few of the overwhelming mass of ephemera collectibles. I could do probably another 3 or 4 shows bringing out some of these interesting kinds of things. Some are rare, some are common. The rare ones are sought after for their rarity. The common ones, I guess people are trying to complete their sets. They are valuable monetarily in not an expensive way. These are not generally worth a lot of money. The very, very, very rare collectibles, paper collectibles and so on, are certainly expensive, but majority are relatively affordable. So that's something that everyone can get into if you're interested. And you can find these again in any common situation, flea markets, auctions, eBay, online sites, social media sites. So eBay, I've given you my information previous to this program. A lot of the materials that I show you, not all, many are my personal, but a lot of the materials that show up on this program, I put on my eBay site and they are for sale. My ID, my eBay ID is Lonrem, Lonrem, and if you put that in and you find materials under Lonrem, those are my materials. This is the the 4th show in, I'm sorry, this is the 5th show already in a series of ongoing shows. My plan is to do it every Friday, and I appreciate if you like it, if you could do a like and subscribe. Subscribe will give you a warning of next show that's coming up every Friday. I'm trying to grow the program. It's hopefully getting better. Technically, it takes a little bit of experience, but we're doing our best. And I could make it help. You could help me make it grow as well if you can tell your friends or pass information along or put it on your own social media as comments. That would be really great. And speaking of comments, thank you for your comments that have been sent in. It gives me inspiration, and I appreciate it very much. I'm planning many special shows in the future, and always looking forward to sharing my collectibles, sharing my knowledge and experience, and explaining some of these things to you to maybe inspire you to collect, and at least give you an idea of what's out there and what it's all about. Or maybe you're just watching this out of interest. But whatever the reason is, I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope that you will come back again, and we'll say goodbye for today.